This is Michael at FABS. It's raining outside today, so we're going to try to talk loud enough for you to hear us. What I'm going to show you today is how we rod our sinkhole cutouts. I've got two tops here. They both get drop-in sinks. This one gets two drop-in vanity sinks. This one here gets one stainless steel kitchen drop-in. What I've got here is the template for these tops. The template shows our center line for our sink, shows what's the front, what's the back. The templates are basically the Bible we go by. So if we follow this template correctly, everything we do should be correct. Melissa makes our templates. She's very good at it, and we don't have a whole lot of mistakes. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to lay this template back on this top and match it up to where it's perfect. Then I'm going to mark my center line. I'll have to kind of pick it up and look or make a mark on it like this so I know where it's at. I'm going to lay this down on here. I'm going to make sure we line it up. What I noticed when I was lining that template up is it was not lining up perfectly. What you'll have sometimes is your other guys, when they flip it and so on, they'll get the template direction mixed up. And then when they go to cut a hole, polish, drill something, they won't double check the template. And then it don't match up and everything's backwards. So that's what happened right there. The template was backwards. So now that I'm matching up, my edges line up perfect. I got my little red mark. I'm going to check here. That's the center for my sink. I'm going to make me a little red line right there. Now that's all I need for this template here. I can set it to the side. I'll put me a little X here. That way I know this is the front of my top. I'm going to go over here to the vanity one. I'm going to do the same thing. The first thing I'm going to do is, so now we're going to lift it up, find our center mark, which mine's right there for this first one here. Make my little red mark, I'm going to make an X, so this is the front of my top. These pins always break. Mark my center line here, a little X. Now I'm done with this template. So I'll just set it out the way. Now what we do, we got these T-squares here. People use them for drywall. We're going to find that mark we made, the little red center line mark, which is right here. Put my square on there. Make me a line all the way across. That's the center for my sinkhole. So on the front, we want to put our rod 2 inches back. So I'll put this square on here, find my 2-inch line. And then I'll just pull it back. On the back side, we just want to go 1 inch. I'm going to put my square on here, find my 1 inch. And then I'm just going to pull it back. Over here, we've got 2 lines. Running out of my little pencil I had in my finger. These pencils are the best thing in the world for writing on stone, but they are very fragile. So, got my line, make my center mark. These are the vanity sinks, so they're going to be smaller than the kitchen sink. This is one of them right here. So, you can tell how big you need to make your rods if you want to lay that sink on your stone, so you know it squeezes the crap out of it. All right. All you gotta do is mark your sink here, here, and now you know how far to take those rods. I haven't made my line for this one yet, but I can see it on the side, so I'll go ahead and make a mark here and here. I'm just gonna set this back over in the box to keep it safe. That's a customer supplied drop-in sink. So now I'm going to make my line on this one. And with vanities, it's the same as with kitchen sinks. You want to mark it on the 2-inch for the front. And then on this one here, I'm going to mark it on the 2-inch. There went the pencil again. Pull it across. Now you don't have to do it like that and pull it across. You can take your square, mark your 1 inch, mark your 1 inch, mark your 1 inch, lay it up here, line up your marks, make your line. But as you can see, that's a lot longer than just simply putting it on here, finding your 1 inch, and pulling it across. So, you can see, here's our marks where our sink's going to be. We have made our line plenty long enough to give us some stability. And I want to show you guys what these rods look like. I have two different kinds of rods here. This one here is fiberglass. This one here is carbon fiber. What we're going to do is cut slots in this, and we're going to set these rods in it. Now if we set them flat, we wouldn't have a lot of strength. But we set them straight up and down, so that gives us a lot of strength. One book I read said it adds 300% strength. Another one we just looked at before shooting this video said 1,200. I don't know the exact number, but I have not broke any sinks since I opened this business. And I rod every sink unless it's a small vanity quartz top. Those are so strong you don't have to rod them. So now that we've got all of our lines drawn out, I'm going to get my blade and we'll start cutting. Okay, now that we've got our lines marked and we've got our center lines, I want to explain to y'all what type of blade we use for cutting the stone, cutting the grooves and all that. What I'm using today is a Talon 8X Turbo 5-inch blade. It has diamond dust chunks, whatever you want to call it, all along the top of the blade, which allows it to cut through that stone really well. It's got the arrow here that shows which way the blade's going to be turning so that you know how to mount it. These are funny. Most new guys mount these blades upside down because the painted side actually goes down to the inside. So you can see all of that. This centerpiece here, that's for different shaft sizes. We pop that out so that it'll fit on our shaft. Just pops out real easy. This is the grinder that we'll be using. It's a Makita SJS. I have had this grinder since I opened the shop a little over a year ago. They are the best that you can get. So we've got these little two bearings here that go on and hold our blade in place. This is going to go through the hole here and give us a nice tight fit so we don't have any play, any bounce. And then this will close down on the other side. So we'll put this on, make sure that it's on correctly. It's got these little grooves here that fit on this little shaft here. So we're going to slide this on here, fits in the shaft, put our blade on, arrow to turn that way, put this on, tighten it down. It comes with a tool that you can tighten it down with. This is little black tool here. Most guys in the shop, they just use their hand, but for this video, we would use this actual tool. It's got two little pins here that go into the holes on that little bearing there. So you just put it in there and you tighten it down. Now your blade's on there, nice and tight. So I'm going to have to turn some fans on. The noise is going to get a little higher. So I'm going to get set up and show you guys how we cut these grooves. My gloves on, we've got the fans running. I'm going to be making a straight cut and a couple side cuts to make it deep enough to get the rods in there. I'm going to make sure the dust blows that way so it doesn't get on the camera and anything else. So here we go. out and cut, we're going to take an air hose and we're going to blow out our cuts. And then we'll turn the fans off so you can hear a little better. And we'll see if our rods fit in it. What we do is we try to get all that dust out of here. That way when we put our flowing in there, which is our epoxy, it'll get in there and stay solid without the dust causing it to fall out. Okay, we got our slits cut in this, and I've got our rods over here, but a lot of new guys that I'm training to cut these slits and stuff, my biggest concern is them cutting through the stone and messing up the top. So I thought I would show you guys just how to judge that. When you've done it as long as I have, you just got to feel, you know how far you can go, but most people haven't done it half their life. So you got your rod here, then you got your blade. So you can lay that rod like that and that blade like that, and it kind of shows you how deep you need to go. It's exactly the same depth as the teeth are on your blade. Now if you take this blade and you put it up against the thickness of the stone, I mean you got so much further you can go. So in my opinion, you gotta really be trying to put it through this stone. But that's one way to tell. Just put your blade up against your rod, put your blade up against your stone, and then you know. And then you can check the depth of it by just sticking your blade in there. I'm really close. I'm right at the depth of my blade. There may be a few spots in here I have to touch up. But another thing you can do, if your rod is just sticking out a little bit, you can just, after your epoxy dries, you can just sand that rod down. It won't hurt a thing. So, as you can see, our rods are 4 feet long. These slits here are about 31 inches, about 2.5 feet or so. So we've got to cut these down. Some people use bolt cutters. They make metal rods too, and with the metal ones, the bolt cutters are a necessity. So you can take your bolt cutter, you can line up your rod, put it in the bolt cutter, pop it, check it, see if it fits. And you can see I got a little high spot right here that I'll need to clean out. Or, no, it looks like this one, no, it's a little short. Or you can do it the way I like to do it. Line your rod up right there. Turn the grinder on. Pop it right there. And you're good to go. And that one fits in there nice and smooth. Do the same thing on this side here. Line your rod up. Slide it in there. Line your rod up. Slide it in there. All of them except this one right here seem to fit real good, and it's just a little bitty area. Now we're good to go on that one as well. I'm I'm going to use the 2 carbon fibers on this one to kind of show you guys how they go. I'm going to use these 2 carbon fibers on this one, and as you can see, these slits are a lot longer because they're for my actual kitchen sink. So I'm close to fitting in here. This side I'm all the way down. This side here I've got just a little bit, so I'm going to touch that up real fast. And that one fits perfect. I'm going to check this one. Alright, no cleaning up necessary on that one. That one fits perfect. So now we've got all of our rods cut to size, our slits cleaned out. We'll blow it off one final time to get the dust out of here, and then I'll show you guys how we mix the epoxy to go in here. So what we got going on here is the epoxy. I use the Stone Shield Transparent Flowing. I get it from Braxton & Bragg. It's the best I've used. It's priced reasonable, and it does the job well. We've got 6 slots we're going to be filling up here. So I want to make sure I've got enough flowing in here to do all of them. I save my water and drink bottles in a bucket underneath my fab station so I don't have to look around for one when I want to rod a top. This is the hardener. This comes with the flowing and the knife grade. They both work well. Now if we were doing a seam or filling a chip, then the color and the look would matter. But since we're just filling in these rodding cuts, color, look doesn't matter at all. If you put too much hardener in this, it becomes a little brittle and it'll turn it yellow or orange. But we want these to dry as fast as they can. So I put quite a bit of hardener in this. You don't want to do that if you're doing a seam or something, but on this, like I said, it does not matter. So once you get your hardener in there, you want to stir it up, and you want to make sure you get that hardener mixed in this epoxy best you can. I buy these, they're called tongue depressors. They're like popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call it. And if you've got a see-through cup, you can kind of see where it gets white and creamy. That's telling you you've got your hardener all the way through it. The better your hardener is mixed, the better this stuff's going to set up. And when it sets up, it's like steel. That being said, a lot of guys, they'll just throw this stuff on there and have, you know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch glob of it on top. Well, somebody got to sand that stuff off. So I try to get it as nice and clean as I possibly can. It's not going to be beautiful, and it's going to not be nice and clean, but we're going to do the best we can with it. So I just bring it over here to my first cut, and then I try to get as much in this cut as I can, and as it soaks in, it'll sink down a little bit and it'll be smoother. You want to work at a fast pace when you're pouring this in, because the amount of hardener that we put in it, there's a chance that when you're pouring it, it could start to set up on you. Then you're going to waste all of it that you haven't poured out. There's a certain pattern I pour in as far as moving my body and arm. So I have to kind of pour it from one side. If not, it don't pour out not as nice and clean as it does the other way. That's why I started from the bottom over here. I've also worked with guys who don't stone this stuff off. They just pour it on here, and while it's a liquid, they'll take this stick or something and just freaking rake it off. And then when it dries, believe it or not, they actually took sawdust and rubbed it on it. And I had to install that crap. I've actually had it where they did it like that. When I lay it on the cabinet and then I go to get my overhangs right and try to slide it or move it, it would stick to the damn cabinet. And I'll tell the owner, hey, tell them not to do that. Oh, it don't hurt nothing, it's fine. Like it sticks to the cabinet. Well, it stuck to the cabinet, wasn't all the way dry. Well, that's just a freaking dumb thing to say. If it wasn't dry, it wouldn't be stuck in there, sticking in place. It'd be running and moving. It's just, this stuff's sticky, even when it is dry, if you don't clean it and sand it off. So now that we've got our lines filled, you want to look for any gaps you have. You will want to kind of smooth this over it. We're going to check this side here, and I do have a little bit of a non-filled area here, so I'm just going to kind of smooth that into it. The same here. So I'm good there. This one here looks really good. This one here, it looks nice and smooth too. This one here, it could use a little bit of love. Like I said, the smoother this, the better. I'm going to show you guys how it is to sand it off, and you'll see what I mean by it's very hard. This one here got a little bit of a gap here, so try to get a little more in there. All right. So now all these are good. I've got a little on my hand. It will burn your skin, so I'm going to want to take some denatured alcohol, spray my hands, and wipe this stuff off. And also, since the look of this doesn't matter, I'm going to get our torch. I'm going to heat this. And as it heats, it'll dry faster. And that'll allow us to stone it faster. It'll allow us to flip it and cut our sinkholes. That same place that threw the sawdust on it, they can sit and watch this stuff dry for like an hour. They'd only put a little bit of hardener in it. It made absolutely no sense to me, but that's how they roll. And when I'm heating this stuff up, with this it doesn't matter if you do get directly on the epoxy, but I like to get the stone around it. That way it heats up from the inside, not just the top or the outside. This stuff's flammable too, so you see when I touch it, it catches on fire. Like I said, it's not the end of the world on this because looks don't matter. I know I keep saying that, but looks matter a lot when you're doing seams or anything else. So I don't know, I guess it makes me happy that it doesn't really matter on these. It allows me a little bit more freedom to do different things. When you're working in this stuff, especially if there's only a few of you, the faster you can do things, but still keep your quality at the top, the better off you are. You could have one person in that shop doing 3/4 of the work that has to be done, so they need to learn how to do things the most efficient way possible, which is what I try to do. Occasionally, I'll learn something new, either online or from a friend, and it'll save me a little time, but for the most part, I know the fastest ways. I'm really happy when I come across a new way to do something that saves me some time. So if anybody's got any comments or any ways to do things different, save time on any of these videos, I am definitely open to your suggestions. I'll give anything a try once, sometimes twice. seen in my other video, you can hold this torch to one spot for 10 seconds, and if it's on the thinner side, it will leave a little bit of a mark. On this back side, you really got to be doing something to mess it up. It may show on the back, but it's not going to show through to the thinner side. This granite, quartz, all of it, it's all really strong. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of it. These torch heads here that I'm using, they're a little pricey. You're looking at maybe 20, 30 bucks for the head. This is one of the cheaper ones. But you don't have to go look for a lighter or something to make a spark to get it going. The little cylinders, they're about $4 or $5 a pop. And I've had this one on here for several months. And it's very, very useful in the granite shop. I'll touch it with my finger to kind of see what kind of progress I'm making. And I can feel it starting to get that oatmeal-y feel, but it's not 100% set up yet. If you look at it from the side also, you can see the texture of it change as the heat starts to work on it. This one here is, I would say 3/4 the way set up. And you know, we've been doing this maybe 5 minutes or so, and we're almost set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you what type of tool we're going to use to clean this stuff off with while we let it cool down and finish drying. And then by that time, we ought to be able to grind. So this is the tool we're going to use to clean this epoxy off with. It's a cup wheels, what I call them. That's what they call them in the magazine where you buy it. You can get coarse ones. You can get some that are resin filled, that's got resin in these lines here. That works good for marble and soft stones, things like that. I've got one of those floating around here, but it's exactly the same as this, it's just filled. With this having the slits in it, it makes it more aggressive and it makes it faster. As you can see, this stuff, it's really solid now. So I'm going to turn the fans back on, and we're going to take this and we're just going to clean this off and make it nice and smooth. And we'll show you what it looks like after it's cleaned off. Then we'll flip it, lay out the sink, and show you how we drop the sinkholes. Here we go. Guess I'll start on this one and show you how it cleans up. I usually run the grinder on about 1.5, 2 to turn it on. So we've sanded these down and got them nice and smooth now. You can look with a razor blade here. Perfectly smooth. When we lay it on the cabinet, it's not going to make it off level to where we have to put shims in it and it break because it's unlevel. And what I was showing earlier is how we make it long enough to cover the sink area. When we go to cut this sink, drop-ins don't leave you a whole lot of bar in the front and the back. In this front, we're probably only going to have about 3.5 inches. In the back here, we'll have a little more. We'll have about 4.25 inches. But I made sure I had my rods long enough to where they are in these bars and it'll give us strength. This kitchen sink over here, it's a drop-in as well. And believe it or not, drop-ins leave you less material. I'll tell you that this one's smooth as well. Drop-ins leave you less material on the bridges than an undermount. I know that sounds weird, but it's just the truth of it. So on this drop-in in particular, and a lot of the stainless steel drop-ins are like this. The composites and the cast iron ones aren't. But these here, they've got these slots in them, and that's for the clips that go in and hold it to the sink. It'll have a screw mechanism with like a flare out on it that'll hold it to the stone. Well, if you look from this, the end of this reservoir here, to the outside edge of this drop-in sink, we've got less than 1/2 inch. We've got right at about 9/16 of an inch. We've got the same on the front, the back, and this other side over here. So when I'm going to cut my hole for my sink, which I'll block it, I'll cut the hole and then I'll block it. That way my installer, whether it be me or someone else, they don't have to cut the whole sinkhole out in the house. I'll leave some material here, 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 and here, and then I'll clean cut all this and I'll leave blocks. That way they can put clamps in it and finish the cut. Maybe 1/4 of the cutting would be done inside the house. The rest of it will be done here in the shop. But I've got to be really careful when I lay this out. To get to where the sink will actually set in the hole, I need to be at least 32.25 heavy. The full size of my sink is 33 inches. That leaves me 3/4 of an inch to play with. So 3/4 of an inch divided by 2 is what? 3/16, something like that. Not a 21.25, 21 5/16 for it to fit in the hole. And my total distance is 22. So the front and the back, we've got about 3/4 play also. So it's really tight. So we've got to really be careful on our cutout for this type of sink. We're going to flip these tops now, and I'm going to show you how I lay out my sinks and how we block them. And with the actual vanity sinks, I can go ahead and cut those out and show you exactly how we cut it and how the sinks fit in. But in order to not break this top going in the customer's house, I can't fully cut it and put the sink in and show you how it looks. When it's installed, I'll get a picture and I'll post it up on the Facebook or the website, and you can look at it there if you want to. So we're going to grab some lunch and then we'll come back and flip these over and cut the holes. So now that we've got the rods set in the stone, we went ahead and flipped the stone right side up. We've still got our little marks on the outside showing us our center line for our sinks. But it's always best to double check. So what we'll do is we will grab our templates and we'll double check our center marks, and then we will lay these templates out. This one here is our template for our vanities. We had our sink up here to check our template, which I will show you here shortly. So we are good here. Gonna go ahead and make my center mark here. And I'll make my center mark here. And we're gonna pull this off. Our other template is laying over here. We're going to put this up here. Double check it. Make sure it matches up right. We'll make our center mark here. And it matches up. Just like we did on the back. We're going to use our T-square. Make our line all the way across. So now we know that's our center line for our drop-in sink. Over here, we'll make our two center lines for our drop-in vanity sink. And what we did is we went ahead and cut out the paper template for these vanities. And we double checked it and to see how it would lay out on the sink. And it'll work really good. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna lay this on our line we made. I made a bend in that template and bent it in half, so that I have the center mark on my template. And what we want to do is kind of split the difference here. We got about 4 1/4 in the back. And we got about 3 1/2 in the front. So we're going to pull it back just a hair. Got about 4 in the front, which is about what I want in that front, but it's got backsplash, so about 3 3/4 in the front, 3 3/4 in the back. So now that we got that, we're gonna make us a rough mark on this. With it being a drop in, it doesn't have to be dead exact, but we want it as close as we can get it. That's that one. We're going to come over here. And we know that we made this mark at 3 3/4. So that we're exactly the same on this one. We'll just make a 3 3/4 mark. And then we will lay this flimsy paper template and line it up with that mark. And we'll make a rough mark on this one. And that takes care of that one. We'll set that template and the sink back over here out of our way. Now the other one, we measured, and I showed you guys earlier the little railing. I think I said 3/16 was half of 3/4. It's actually 3/8. So we've got 21 1/4 front to back cut out. So we've got a total of 25 3/4 here. So I'm going to mark it at 3, and then I'm going to go from 3 21 3/4 or 21 1/4, I'm sorry. And then I'm gonna mark it. So that gives me 3 inches in the front and 1.5 inches in the back. This 3 up here and 1.5 here, I don't think it's gonna be exactly what I want. So I think I'm gonna go 2.5 here, and then go my 21 1/4 in the back. So that's going to give me 2 in the back, 2.5 here. I think that's what we're going to roll with. So I'm going to make my 2.5 mark here, my 2.5 mark here. Now I'm going to make my 21 1/4 mark back here, and my 21 1/4 mark back here. Now we'll make a line on both of those. Line back here. Two. I'm off there. So I gotta make that 2. You always want to double check your layout because sometimes you can get off. And as you can see, I'm a good 1/8 inch or better off. So I'm gonna straighten that out. And then I'll show you how to check the squareness of it after we get it all laid out. Alright, now I've got my 32 1/4 from left to right. So it's going to be 16 1/8. 16 1/8. 32 1/4. So we're going to make our mark for that. Now, to check and see if we're square on this, all we're going to do is measure from corner to corner. So we've got 38 3/4 here. We've got 38 3/4 there. So we're square. We're perfect. We're going to double check our measurement. I have got 32 1/4, and the lower line I've got 21 1/4. So we're good to go. So at this point, I'm going to get my grinder, put my mask on, turn my fans on. This one here I'm going to block. I'm going to cut it all the way through from here to about here. Then I'm going to block it here and here. I'll leave this meat. I'll cut it all the way through here. I'll leave meat here. I'll block it here and here. These here, I'll just cut in a circle and I will drop it all the way through. And I'll show you how to cut these circles with a straight blade. They sell a concave blade that's thicker, but they jut. So I'll show you how to do it with a straight blade as well.
cut these suits, we'll be using the same blade we used to cut the rails underneath. With the older ones, I'll start inside and I'll work my way out. That way my blade don't bind up. You'll see what I'm talking about. So just want to check that, make sure we don't have any fray left or right, or top to bottom. And we don't. So that's how you cut for the oval thing. Now we go over here. This is our kitchen sink. So that's what we got for the kitchen sink.
So after you get your kitchen sink laid out, you cut it and you block these corners here. We don't cut it all the way through here, here, or here. Maybe halfway. So we'll be cutting this out in the home. By cutting these blocks and cutting this halfway through here, it eliminates all that dust you just saw when I cut this from being in the homeowner's house. So you want to keep the homeowner's house as clean as you possibly can. Anything you can do in the shop, you do it here. Earlier you saw us put rods in the front and the back. That makes it strong. Then we leave this, which makes it strong. So that gives us a good opportunity to get this in the house, set on the cabinets without any cracks, breaks, or anything like that. So once we get it in the house, get our grinder and things set up, we'll bring in one of our bars or a good long piece of wood, anything will work. You need 2 C-clamps like this. So what you do, you take this C-clamp, you stick it through there, you tighten that one down, you take your other C-clamp, stick it through here, you tighten that one down, now you usually have a partner with you. They'll get their vacuum and they'll hold it for you, and you'll get your grinder and you'll cut it here and here, here and here, or you can cut the front and the back first and the side second. Then when you cut it, you can just reach in there, grab it, pull this piece out, take it outside, set your sink right in there. Your stone is safely on the cabinets. You've already shimmed up any gaps or anything. So you're in, your sinkhole's cut out, your sink's in place, and you don't have a broke top. That is the safest way, the cleanest way to do any drop-in kitchen sink. As far as the vanity goes, we got a lot more meat in the front and the back than we would have on this one. Same here. Plus, you'd be doing a ton of cutting if you block this little circular vanity. We've got the bar in the front and the back of this, so we just go ahead and drop it out 100%. These usually hit the floor and break. You can use them for walkways and things like that if they stay together. A lot of people want us to make cutting boards or lazy Susans out of their sinkhole cutouts, but a lot of times they break. If they don't break, I don't mind to make lazy Susans or cutting boards, but what people don't understand is that any sinks we've got to cut these corners out. They think we get a nice clean cutout, but we don't. So you see now, it's 50-50 whether that's saved. But I think this is a good demonstration on what we do when we cut drop-in sinks. Undermounts are very, very similar. We'll do a video on those later. We'll be drilling holes for clips and things like that in it. And then, of course, with the undermounts, you have to polish and all that, so there's a lot more fabrication time in it. So I think that about wraps it up for our video today. If there are any videos, any questions, anything you would like to see, we'll make a video on it and try to explain it to you the best we can. Just like our videos, subscribe, and you'll be notified on our next video, and maybe it's something you want to learn for your kitchen. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.